Good morning, everybody. This is a little bit of an interesting show because we are basically in a snow globe here in Wisconsin. So we are in a nice blizzard over here, which is absolutely great. I am Dr. Bryce. Some of you guys may have seen me on here periodically. I've done a show before on weight loss. And today what we're going to be talking about is how sugar, going into our no sugar theme and continuing with that, is going to affect our Swiss watch, aka all the systems of our body. But first, I want to talk a little bit about some of the giveaways that we're going to be continuing with. And today we have a special treat for that as well, because we are going to be giving away ashwagandha. However, we're going to be giving it away in a capsule form. That's right, you guys, we do have certain herbs that are encapsulated. That means no nasty taste, no having to chase it with some type of juice or something, or aloe or vinegar, or whatever you guys are doing to cut the taste of some of the herbs. But it also means that it's really easy to travel with. So it's very, very cool. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show and why we've chosen to give away some ashwagandha. But make sure that you guys are interacting with our elves, our helpers in the chat, talking to them, because that is how you are going to be able to win some prizes, okay? So without further ado, today we're talking about sugar, right? How does sugar actually affect the body? And we really need to take a look at some pathological things first, right? Like, let's address the elephant in the room here, which is going to be type 2 diabetes. So what I did is I pulled up some stats for you guys to look at, okay? And this is looking at facts of diabetes, specifically type 2 in the United States. So let's take a look at this. In total, there's estimated about 40 million people have full-on type 2 diabetes. That is astronomically high. That is almost 12% of the population. And there are a lot of people walking around, millions of people who have type 2 diabetes, and they don't even know it. And now if we look down towards pre-diabetes, which is again just meeting a certain criteria of blood sugar dysregulation, it's been estimated that nearly 100 million people aged 18 or older have pre-diabetes. Now, what is actually the criteria for this? What are they looking at? And the main marker that they're actually looking at to identify if you are a full-on diabetic versus just pre-diabetic is a marker called hemoglobin A1C. It's essentially a measure of your blood sugar over the last 2 to 3 months, so approximately 90 days. Now, if you're going to be a medical diagnosis of full-on type 2, you have to be over 6, okay? And that's going to correlate to a specific average of your blood sugar, which is going to be over 100 for sure. Okay, but now prediabetes is an A1C of 5.7. Now, when we actually start looking at the research, which I'll actually pull up here in a couple of slides, we'll see that if you're at 5.7, there is some significant changes taking place in your body that are actually going to be very detrimental to you, to your liver, your kidneys, your nervous system, especially your brain, which we'll see in just a little bit here. But there are going to be a lot of different changes at that level, and even as low as 5.3. So now let's kind of fill in that gap from pre-diabetes, from 5.7 of an A1C marker to 5.3, which they've seen brain shrinkage at. So what's happening in that gap? Well, let's take a look at that, right? What about metabolic issues in general, right? What about general blood sugar dysregulation and insulin resistance? Because not everyone's gonna have an A1C of 5.7 and be on their way to developing full-on type 2, but they can still have metabolic dysregulation. So in this study, they're looking at the epidemiology of people with insulin resistance. And they found that through a recent analysis from 2021 that almost 40% of US adults aged 18 to 44 are insulin resistant based on the HOMA-IR, which is just a measurement. The IR stands for insulin resistance, While obesity rates have increased considerably over the past 2 decades, this rapid increase in prevalence was not only associated with increased, essentially, obesity, but there's also high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, meaning your lipid panel is going to be abnormal. We're going to talk all about that in just a little bit here as well, and also physical or limited physical activity. Okay, but now let's talk about brain shrinkage. You guys, this is crucial to understand when you're talking about blood sugar. Okay, we wonder why so many people have brain fog and why Alzheimer's is now classified as type 3 diabetes. So I pulled up this page. This was a health clinic page. I actually didn't include it in here, but we see here that they commented when comparing the degree of brain tissue loss in those individuals with the lowest hemoglobin A1C, so from 4.4 to 5.2, to those having the highest A1Cs from anywhere from 5.9 to all the way up to 9, which is definitely type 2 diabetic, the brain loss in those individuals with the highest hemoglobin A1C was almost doubled. Okay, so that means if your A1C is above 5.2, so 5.3 and up, you are having changes at the level of your brain. Your brain is starting to go into atrophy, and we will talk about why. Why is that? Okay, but before we get into all the nitty-gritty details with the brain and triglycerides and some other cool stuff that I have in store for you guys, let's talk about how sugar is going to affect our whole body, right? We're always preaching the Swiss watch principle, how one thing in our body, one change, no matter how big or small, is going to elicit responses in other systems. Okay, so how does sugar affect our body? Well, it's going to affect the liver. If you have high amounts of sugar in your bloodstream, you will develop fatty liver. You'll put stress on your liver. You will stress out your kidneys. Excess sugar will cause damage to the proteins of your kidney, which is how it functions. So you will be altering kidney function. Your nervous system, not only your brain, but also your peripheral nervous system, which is going to control all your nerves, your muscles. It's going to give you proper sensation, and we'll go into, again, a lot more details of that. But if you have too much sugar, you can actually have neuropathy. You will be depleted of essential vitamins and minerals in your body. And of course, if you have too much sugar, you will gain weight, especially that visceral adipose tissue, which if you guys have watched my show in the past, the episode I did on weight loss, you will know that visceral adipose tissue contributes to inflammation. It contributes and releases inflammatory immune signals that control and signal further inflammation. So essentially, it affects your whole body. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is walk you through these in detail. And notice I skipped the liver first because it's so important, I had to save the best for last. Okay, so let's talk about kidney function. So let's address normal. What do the kidneys normally do? Most people will say that your kidneys are a filter, and I would agree, okay? They definitely filter a lot of blood and convert your blood into urine. Now, it can filter about 760 cups of fluid per day. Probably pretty important that these organs are functioning properly, okay? But they're not only a filter. Your kidneys recycle and repair proteins and hormones and certain vitamins. They will convert your vitamin D to the active form, that hormone form, that D3. You need proper kidney function in order to actually convert it to that. It's also going to deactivate and convert certain hormones in your body, which is important for proper elimination. It's going to release hormones that regulate blood pressure and the production of your red blood cells. So again, it's a very important organ to have functioning properly. But now, when we have abnormal function, specifically from having too much sugar in the diet, you're going to see when you have chronically elevated sugar levels, you form something called an age. That's right, it's called an AGE, an advanced glycation end product. I wonder how they got the term aging. Probably has something to do with accumulation of advanced glycation end products from high levels of blood sugar over your lifespan. Now, these advanced glycation end products damage the kidneys. They damage the nephron, the functional unit of the kidney that allows it to filter. So, what can you see with damage to your kidneys? Well, you'll start to see changes on your CMP. This is very commonly ran. It's a comprehensive metabolic profile. Most people that come and see us already have had these ran. This is really standard, but it shows you some pretty good information. You'll also can see abnormalities in your vitamin D levels. Why? Because you need proper kidney function to convert it. You can also have abnormalities in your cortisol levels, your fight or flight hormone, your stress hormone. Now, why would that be? It's because cortisol has to be deactivated to actually leave your body. Where does that happen? In the kidneys. You can also have decreased protein repair. Now, how would this actually look on a person? Could actually cause changes in your skin, your hair, your nails. Why? Because we have something called collagen proteins. If these are not adequately repaired, it will lead to damage of your organs that utilize a lot of collagen, like your skin, like your hair, like your nails. Okay, and you can also see some changes to other markers such as your glomerular filtration rate, your BUN or blood urine nitrogen, or blood urea nitrogen, and then creatinine. So again, markers for kidney filtration. So it's essential to our health. It's essential to your hormone health. It's essential for your vitamin D levels, which are going to work with your immune system. They're going to help regulate your immune responses. It's important to have healthy kidneys. Now we wonder, let's look at diabetics, right? Diabetics have the highest rate of kidney damage. If you have known a diabetic in the end stages, what is something that they commonly have to do? It's called dialysis. Their kidneys fail. Why? Right here, blood sugar. Their blood sugar has been chronically elevated and it has caused physical damage to the kidneys. They can't function properly and now they need to get them pumped out. They need to get them filtered. Okay, so now let's look at the nervous system, specifically peripheral nerves, right? So again, let's look at normal. I can't teach you guys abnormal if we don't first know normal. So normal, your nervous system is going to be transmitting signals. Your brain is going to be sending signals to all the nerves in your body. It's going to control your muscles, your glands, every single cell, your organs, everything. Okay, it's going to help all of the regions of your body communicate with one another. It's essential. That's why if you have seen our Swiss watch image, the nervous system is right in the middle. It is essential to our health to have those signals be transferred properly. Now, it's also responsible for coordinated movement. Say that 3 times fast. And also sensation, right? If you want to feel things, that is nervous system input. So it's also going to be responsible for memory, not only memory formation, but memory retention. I wonder why type 3 diabetes is also referred to as Alzheimer's, because you are having not only brain atrophy, but you're also damaging those memory centers. You can't retain them. You can't remember them, okay? It plays an important role in breathing, thinking, various emotions. So that is normal. The brain and the nervous system constantly coordinate with all of the organs of the body. So it's, again, the Swiss watch right there. But now let's look at abnormal. So what will high levels of sugar over time do? Well, it can damage your nervous system in multiple ways. The first is by stimulating the brain and causing excitation. So Travis, put the camera on me for a second here, because this is something that is so important, especially in youth, in younger people, and especially people even like my age. I'm 25. Okay, what are some conditions that are running absolutely rampant? Anxiety, ADHD, mood disorders, seasonal depression. Guys, a lot of this is going to be related to excitation of your brain. Sugar is very excitatory to our brain. I remember when I was back in my undergrad days, I used to get a special treat every once in a while, and that was a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Okay, I didn't know why, but for some reason, when I would drink that coffee, I would be so hyper. I'm like, oh, that's weird, it's just coffee. So I started making Dunkin' Donuts coffee at home. Guys, I was very smart. I was onto something here, okay? But then I would drink it and I wouldn't get that response. I'm like, well, that's really weird. And once I started chiropractic school, I cut out, all the junk and all that stuff, doing my Wellness Way stuff. And I was like, you know what? I want to know what they put in their coffee. Sure enough, there was like 70 grams of sugar in there. Okay, and what did that do to my brain though? I was loving life. I was like way up here. I'm like, this is the best tasting coffee I've ever had in my life. I want another one and another one. But it drove my brain crazy. It was so excitatory. And we see that really commonly with people who have anxiety and ADHD and behavioral disorders, especially these kids. You just got to get them off the sugar. The sugar is driving them up a wall. But then there's also going to be other things like histamine and food allergies, gut infections and all that stuff. But sugar is very excitatory to the brain, okay? That's the point that I need to get across to you guys. But let's keep going on here. So we have also, secondly, so first off was just that simple excitation of the brain, right? You're stimulating neurons in the brain, and that's what's giving you that sugar high, right? But now we have depletion of essential nutrients, specifically vitamin B1. Vitamin B1 or thiamine is very, very important in the nervous system and proper function, okay? And when we eat sugar, we actually burn up our vitamin B1 very fast. So now, the more sugar you're eating, the more you're depleting your vitamin B1, now you actually start to see damage to the nervous system. So I'll take an extreme example here, but there's actually a condition out there called beriberi. Now, what is beriberi? Okay, it's a neurological disorder. And what we see in it is that people's muscles start to waste away. And they also get all different types of neuropathies, meaning their nervous system is being damaged. Well, it turns out that beriberi is most common in alcoholics. Well, why would that be? Probably because alcohol is pure sugar, okay? They're depleting their vitamin B1 so rapidly and chronically on a day-to-day basis where now it's damaging their nervous system, okay? So we need to be paying attention to these things. We need to look at this. And then I also have a little note on here because one of the things that we see is that neuropathies, you'll have tingling sensations in your hands and your feet. You'll have loss of sensation. Again, look at diabetics. What's something that a lot of diabetics have? Diabetic neuropathy. I wonder why. I wonder why that is. Probably because they are chronically damaging their nervous system. They're deficient in nutrients, especially vitamin B1, and they're also just continuously having high amounts of glucose in their blood because they have abnormal regulation. Okay? And then, so yeah, you can have muscle weakness, neuropathy, loss of coordination, loss of memory, that brain atrophy, that brain shrinkage. You will get plaque formation. That is Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is nothing more than chronic elevated blood sugar. So if you have concerns about Alzheimer's, because I talk to people all the time who are just generally concerned about it. Oh, my parents, their memory is just not quite the same. They're not remembering names as well. They aren't remembering where they are. I'm concerned about Alzheimer's, dementia. I'm like, hey, me too. That's a pretty serious thing. That can be very traumatizing even to watch someone go through that, to watch someone chronically, slowly lose their memory day by day, forget who their loved ones are. We can cut out sugar. We can do those very basic things to help these people. We can restore some blood sugar regulation. Now, with Alzheimer's, if it's super chronic, I don't know if we'll ever fix that all the way, right? There might be some permanent damage there, but there are things that we can do, and one of the main culprits of that is going to be sugar, okay? So now let's look at vitamins and minerals. So vitamin B1, right? Just talked about vitamin B1, but here's actually how it works. Okay, so when you eat sugar, your body has to convert that into a form of energy to be used, okay? And it uses vitamin B1. So it plays a role in converting those carbs into energy, and that's why it gets so rapidly utilized when we're eating high amounts of sugar. It also plays a role in muscle contraction and nerve conduction. So again, that's why it's important for the nervous system. Magnesium. Magnesium plays a role in neurotransmission, which is essential, but it's also needed for hundreds of other enzymatic reactions, including stabilizing blood sugar. Magnesium is important for, quite literally almost everything. And then we have zinc, which plays a key function in immune system. You need it for proper immune system support. You need it for proper prostate health, testosterone, normal production of serotonin and dopamine, so you're more like happy hormones, and also to increase GABA. GABA is going to be a neurotransmitter that is the most inhibitory. It's the most calming. So it's no wonder that as we start to deplete some of these things that we have more excitation. There's an imbalance there. So now let's look at abnormal, right? The vitamin B1, we kind of already talked about that. You're going to deplete your B1, but that can just lead to less like specific things, right? Just like fatigue and general muscle weakness, but also confusion, psychosis, and there it is, nerve damage. But you guys, even just general fatigue, right? I know most people on this planet are chronically fatigued. Why? Well, they're chronically inflamed, they're chronically depleting themselves of nutrients, but also just like muscle weakness. Most people have experienced this before, and a lot of it has to do with vitamin B1 and sugar. Okay, magnesium, when that's abnormal, when you have high amounts of sugar, it's gonna cause a decreased absorption of magnesium, so you can even eat it, and if you have abnormal blood sugar, you might not be absorbing it properly. And it's also going to increase the excretion of it from the kidneys. So not only can you not absorb it properly, but you're pushing a lot of it, draining your system of it. So it leaves you very deficient. Most people are deficient in magnesium, myself included. I have to supplement with magnesium at times because I know that I'm not getting the proper things in my food. Or maybe I eat too much fruit or something, right? Fruit will still have a spike in your blood sugar. Okay, there's a big misconception in that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. But then zinc, right? Abnormal. Excess sugar will deplete the body of zinc. High carb foods are also low in zinc. So if you're consuming a lot of these high carbohydrate foods, you're not getting adequate amounts of zinc. The highest sources of zinc are going to be foods like oysters, more like shellfish type stuff. That's where you're gonna see a lot of it. And also, I get people coming in all the time on zinc supplements, but it's not from a whole food source. And that in itself, if you're just taking an isolated form of zinc, look at what Doc said last week about berberine. Never take berberine by itself. You have to have that whole food form with Oregon grape, okay? The same thing goes with zinc. If you are taking an isolated form of zinc, you're extracting all these other naturally occurring constituents, one of them being copper. You have to have the proper ratio of zinc to copper, otherwise you will actually deplete yourself. If you are only taking zinc, you will deplete yourself of copper. You will have an abnormal ratio there, and that can lead to problems. So get a whole food supplementation or go eat some oysters. I haven't had them, honestly, so I don't know if they taste good or bad, because I just take the capsule, but tell me how they are. Please, let me know. Someone put it in the comments, and I'll have them tell me if they taste good or bad. All right, but taking a good quality zinc can improve a lot of these things. It can improve testosterone, prostate health, immune function, a lot of different things. It can even improve conditions like anxiety. How? By producing GABA, by giving your body what it needs to make the normal things like GABA in the right amounts. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about weight, right? I know everyone doing no sugar wants to lose a couple pounds. A lot of people at the new year want to lose some weight, and I totally understand that. I think it's a great goal to essentially just be healthier, right? When you find inflammation in the body, When you get rid of that inflammation, you're gonna lose some weight, okay? But let's look at normal. Okay, I put in a little joke here just because I like to be a little goofy, but I like to say that it is normal to have weight. All of us have weight. If you don't, you may not exist, okay? We all have a weight. Stop focusing so much on your weight, you guys. You're gonna stress yourself out, which is gonna cause weight gain, okay? Just stop focusing on weight and start focusing on inflammation. Okay, if you focus on inflammation and you take the baby steps, get tested, decrease inflammation, support your body, give your body the proper nutrients it needs to handle the inflammation, and then stop putting these inflammatory things in your body, take the baby steps and you will start to lose weight. Things will start to normalize. But as you can see here, there are all of these different numbers, right? There's the BMI. All these things are variable. It's impossible to almost tell what a healthy weight is for a person because we have different body compositions, okay? But we do know through a lot of other markers and testing what abnormal can be. So high sugar levels for a long period of time, they're gonna cause weight gain. They're gonna lead to that visceral adipose tissue, which is creating a pro-inflammatory environment. And then again, that's where we get that difference, right? We talked about it before. Visceral adipose tissue versus subcutaneous. Subcutaneous fat is normal to have in certain amounts. Women tend to have more subcutaneous fat for specific reasons like hormone production, detoxification, and childbearing and certain things like that. And men tend to have less subcutaneous fat, but no one should really have a lot of visceral fat. That means that you're inflamed. That can be on your liver. It can be on any other organ, okay? When we look at weight, the more stress there is on the body, typically the more weight we see. We have to find that stress. We have to identify what that is. And what is that for most people? I hear you guys saying it. It is usually going to be elevated blood sugar for a long period of time. Okay, and it's well documented that obesity is a contributor to every single disease on the planet. Every single one. If you're overweight, you're more likely to have worse outcomes. Look at when COVID was running rampant. Who was most affected? Obese people, people with diabetes, people with heart disease. Why? It's quite obvious, okay? Major sugar problem. The more weight you have, the more inflamed you are. You're probably running through a lot more nutrients, which is leaving you deficient, and now you get a virus or a cold and you get really, really sick. Again, there's a lot of simple steps that we can take to prevent these things. Okay, and now last but not least, we have the liver. So I made this the longest list on purpose for you guys. I'm not gonna go through everything on here, but I just wanna show you guys how important it is to have a normal, healthy, functioning liver, because it is responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, maybe 100,000, we don't know yet. We don't know everything there is to know about the liver or the body at all, okay? But we know that it's responsible for at least hundreds, if not thousands, of metabolic processes. It's responsible for hormonal conversions, for including like thyroid function, right? So many people who think they have a thyroid problem might just actually have fatty liver, and they're not converting their T4 into T3, the active form, so they don't have the metabolic effect. It sometimes is that simple. It really is, okay? But also it converts your different estrogens. It converts them and breaks them down so that you can actually get rid of them. If you have estrogen dominant symptoms, or you know based off your labs that you're estrogen dominant, one of the common things we see is poor liver function. You're not clearing it out. And then right below that, right, major detoxifying organ. It detoxifies your body of toxic compounds, including hormones. You have to detoxify these things out of your body. You don't want them staying there for a long time. And it's also gonna produce a bunch of stuff like cholesterol, which is needed for the production of your steroid hormones, your cortisol, your progesterone, testosterone, all the different estrogens. It's also important for brain health, cell structure, overall health, right? You guys get the point. Cholesterol is essential, okay? And your liver is essential to have proper function of all those things. Even absorbing your fat-soluble vitamins through the action of bile. And then your liver is actually what's gonna store certain vitamins, certain minerals, okay? But when it's abnormal, which we see this all the time, you have some form of fatty liver, right? There's going to be abnormal conversions that's going to have a systemic effect on the body. It can lead to weight gain, hair thinning, acne on the jawline, on the back, abnormal hormonal conversions, facial hair, hindered detox. What happens when you hinder detoxification? Well, now your toxic load in your body goes up. Now you have to store them. Where do you store toxins? In fat tissue. Good luck losing that weight if you are toxic. Trust me, if you try to lose weight, you can start mobilizing toxins in your body. If they can't go through the liver, they're going right back into adipose tissue. Your body will do that to protect you. You don't want toxins roaming in your blood. So your body is so smart, it actually will produce adipose tissue to store the toxins so it doesn't damage you. Okay, so again, toxicity. There are two ends of this. There's being toxic and deficient. Most people are so toxic that they end up being deficient in everything. So what do we have to do? Decrease the inflammatory things. How do we do that? We identify them through testing. We work on liver function. Then we provide the body with nutrients, sufficiency. Now you have balance, right? Dr. Patrick always says, I'd rather be sufficient in nutrients and slightly toxic than have no toxicity but be deficient. Because if you're deficient, your body can't function properly. At least even if you're a little toxic and you have sufficient nutrients on the other end, you can handle that. Okay, I'm not saying, go eat a bunch of junk and then just take a bunch of glandulars, but you need to be sufficient. You need to have the proper building blocks and nutrients to form these metabolic processes properly, to actually have the proper conversion, metabolism, so that you can get these things out of your body. Okay, so how do we actually measure liver function? It's quite simple, right? We have some of these markers on that same comprehensive metabolic profile, that ALT, AST, alkaline phosphatase. But the big one that I really want to talk about today is triglycerides. So this can be actually very misunderstood for a lot of people, but it's honestly quite simple. So here's what it is. A triglyceride is a type of fat or lipid found in your blood. When you eat, your body converts any calories it doesn't need to use right away into triglycerides. Okay, so now drop down to this next paragraph here. If you regularly eat more calories than you burn, particularly from what? From a high carbohydrate, high sugar foods, you may have high triglycerides. Now, I totally disagree with them when it comes down here to their normal range. They say less than 150. You guys, if you have triglycerides, if you have had these tested, go look at them. If they are over 100, you have some form of fatty liver disease. Okay, it's really that simple, and that means that you need to do no sugar. You need to, and not only for a month, for a long period of time, for probably a year. Okay, earlier this morning, I was seeing patients. I got a lab back. Triglycerides on it were 239. Okay, major fatty liver. Okay, that is a problem. So what did I tell this guy, right? Hey, no sugar for a year. That includes fruit. Why? Because fruit is not just fructose. It's fructose and it's glucose. It's still going to cause blood sugar spikes. And most people don't realize this, but fructose actually has to be processed by the liver. We just talked about if you have abnormal liver function, it's not processing things properly. Okay, so it's really not a good idea to go have a bunch of fructose. So let's look at some research talking about triglycerides. Okay, so triglycerides in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So this highlighted portion here, the minimal criteria for the diagnosis of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the accumulation of triglycerides in greater than 5% of your hepatocytes, which are just liver cells. Thus, triglyceride accumulation is central. It is central to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease development, and strategies to lower triglycerides are being pursued. You want to know what's interesting? The easiest way, by far, to lower your triglycerides is to stop eating sugar. We don't need to pursue anything. We don't need to pursue a drug to decrease triglycerides, what do we need to do? You guys already know. You already know we have to stop putting sugar in our mouth. Okay, it is that simple. Yes, stress will also correlate to some blood sugar stuff too, so manage your stress, but literally, stop eating sugar. It's not good for you, especially if you have fatty liver disease. It's terrible, okay? So now, how do we test this? How do we actually look at your triglyceride levels? Well, you just run a lipid panel. It's easy, it's cheap, it's fast, it's simple. You're gonna look at your total cholesterol, your LDL, your HDL, and your triglycerides. And like I said before, guys, if you have that tested and it's over 100, you have some form of fatty liver disease. You need to cut out sugar. You need to do some things to support your liver and how to process those out of your body. Okay, so how do we decrease them, right? Here's some action steps, okay? Avoid sugar for 1 year. That means processed sugar, white sugar, brown sugar. That means starchy vegetables like carrots and potatoes, because those are gonna spike your blood sugar. All fruits. I know people get upset about that. I understand. Trust me, I love fruit. Thankfully, I don't have fatty liver disease, so I do eat fruit outside of no sugar. However, we need to be doing these things. We need to be taking these action steps to actually correct this problem. Okay, because what do we do at The Wellness Way? We try to restore. We restore health. We can't restore your health if you aren't cutting back on the sugar. If you have fatty liver disease, you need to remove it. You have to for a year. Otherwise, we won't see the results that we want, that you want. You want to feel better. These are some of the things that we have to do. If you haven't had your triglycerides tested, you should. You should get them tested because they're also a risk factor when elevated for cardiovascular disease. Shocking how fatty liver disease and elevated triglycerides is going to be correlated to heart disease, cardiovascular problems, heart attacks, strokes, when all it stems from blood sugar, chronically elevated blood sugar. Okay, but what are some supplements that can help? Okay, we've got a little spotlight here on coleus. Coleus, this is Dr. Jason's favorite herb. The Dr. Jason Nobly's favorite herb. And this is gonna modulate the histamine response. It's gonna support healthy cardiovascular system, maintain blood pressure, positive effects on slowing or stopping abnormal cell growth. Okay, but you guys, it does a lot more. So I pulled up some research for you guys to check this out. So this article here is titled An Evidence-Based Review, Anti-Obesity. That's kind of cool. Anti-obesity effects of Coleus forschholi. Okay, I'm just gonna say Coleus. But here we go, right? Let's check this out. Okay, forskolin, which is one of the main constituents in Coleus, is a diterpene that acts as an adenylate cyclase activator. Now, what does that mean? Okay, adenylate cyclase is involved in the production of cyclic adenosine monophosphate, cyclic AMP. And this is a significant biochemical agent in metabolic processes. So if you want a healthy metabolism, we got to be using some of this stuff. And diet-induced thermogenesis, increased lean body mass, and stimulates the loss of body fat. You guys, what Coleus does, it supports a lot of liver function, but it essentially goes in and chews up those triglycerides. It helps you to metabolize or convert them out of your body. And what else did it say it did? It increases lean body mass. What have we been saying to do if you want to lose weight? You need to what? Increase your lean muscle mass. Doing that, you're going to burn more sugar even when you're sleeping. You're going to improve your metabolism. That means that you're going to be burning more calories throughout the day, and that's what we need to happen. You need to burn more calories. This is an herb. This is just an herb, and the herb can literally help you do that. We should probably be wanting to take some of this stuff. If you have elevated triglycerides, Coleus is going to be great for you. It is. Okay, but what is the last thing? my closing remarks. What's the last thing that can increase blood sugar chronically, even to the point of inducing full-on type 2 diabetes? And that's this big, fat, red, ugly word over here. Stress. Guys, stress, increased cortisol will increase your blood sugar. So, that being said, we need to eliminate sugar from the diet, okay? Not only a month of no sugar, but if you have triglycerides over 100, you gotta cut back on the sugar. You gotta eliminate it from the diet for a year, including fruit. And I highly recommend coming and working with one of us so we can get you on some Coleus and we can start really working to filter things out of that liver and answering the questions that you have for us, giving you the answers and the guidance that you need to actually become healthy again. But also, what do we have to do? Look at that big word. We gotta manage our stress. We gotta manage it, okay? What's one good thing that can help with stress? Ashwagandha, right? I told you guys I was getting there, but ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb for your adrenal glands, okay? Cortisol is produced from your adrenal glands. It is that fight or flight hormone. When you're super stressed out, your cortisol is gonna spike. And what does that do to blood sugar? It's gonna increase it. Ashwagandha helps to feed the adrenal glands what it needs to maintain balance. It helps you adapt to the day-to-day stressors. So it's an absolutely fantastic herb for anyone to take. I mean, you can't go wrong with taking ashwagandha. It's so great. It's been known for longevity effects for years, like thousands and thousands of years, and there's loads and loads of research on that as well. But that is what we're giving away today. And again, like I said, we are going to have it in gel capsules, so you don't have to cringe after taking a little sip of it, and you can travel with it. Okay, we understand it's very difficult to travel with the liquid herbs due to the restrictions of, like, I don't know what it is, like 2 fluid ounces or something. So what you guys need to do is go up there. It should be on the screen. You're gonna have to email giveaways@thewellnessway.com, and everyone monitoring the chat over here is actually going to be selecting the winners. So you guys need to stay active in that chat, and they will be reaching out to you guys in order to get you guys your ashwagandha capsules. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I believe Dr. Patrick will be back next week. Stay safe in the snow. And like I said, go make a snowman, go have a snowball fight, do something awesome in the snow, maybe build a snow fort. I might try to do that just because I think that'd be kind of cool. But you guys have a great day, and we will catch you guys next week.
For the unedited, full-length, unapologetic content, go to our website to watch ADP shows. Hit that subscribe button and join our community for the most amazing content like this every day.